Today I'd like to talk about choosing a profession for your character. Do you know what you want your character to do? And if you don't, how do you decide what job your character should have?
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
So recently on social media, someone asked what job you would have if you could have any job you wanted. Like, what would you choose if you weren't doing whatever it is that you're doing now? And people were writing all kinds of different ideas or dream jobs that they had. And one of the thoughts that I had was, well, if that is their dream job, then why aren't they doing it? Like, what, why not do it? And, of course, it depends, right? Maybe back when they went to college, it wasn't something that they thought that they would like, and maybe now it is. Or maybe, they learned some new things or went to college and learned, oh, yeah, that would have been a cool thing to do. But now I'm like so deep in this field that I can't really change. So, there's a lot of reasons people don't do it. But one of the cool things about being a writer is that you get to explore different careers. And though you can't really do them, you can do them through your character. So your character can take on a job or career that you're interested in. And then that gives you an opportunity to sort of be it or try it out or interview people that are actually doing it, which I think is kind of fun. So this hypothetical question that was asked on social media is something that kind of writers get to do all the time. Like, we get to try out these different careers through our characters. But is that how we choose the career? Is it just something that we are interested in? Not necessarily, right? It has to fit the plot. It has to fit the story. But it does give us an opportunity to explore different careers. So how do we choose, though, really a career for our character? So first of all, of course, it has to fit that character. So let's say that you're writing a detective story. Well, then it's already decided, right, that your character is going to be a detective. So as long as you do some research, you really understand that career and the job, you can write about it in a realistic way and make your character really feel and seem like a detective. So in those cases, you don't really have a choice, right? You just have to choose the career that's best for that character and that's going to fit your story. But sometimes it doesn't really matter, right? So I've written Hollywood animators. I've written a character who owns a winery. I've written a doctor. I've written different types of characters, and the reason that I chose those was just something that I was interested in. I was kind of curious about this type of career. My Hollywood animator, I used to, at the time my kids were young, we used to watch all the Disney movies, and we used to watch the whatever it is that they add, those little pre-videos that show you things. Like, for example, Monsters Inc. had this whole cool section on how the animators created the monsters and made the hair move so that it looked authentic. And I thought, boy, this is a fascinating, very interesting job. And then I think we'd gone to Disney World out in Florida, and we went behind the scenes, and we met some animators, and they had you try out. And I thought, okay, this is a pretty cool job. So that was a job that I ended up choosing, and it worked pretty well, because as long as my character had just this sort of cool, because it was just fit her personality, right, that to be this sort of cool person, kind of creative, a little crazy. So it fit perfectly, but it also allowed me to explore a little bit more an interesting job. So I bought books on animation. I read a little bit more about it, watched more videos, until I really understood what the job of the character is. So if you do get the opportunity to choose something that you're interested in, it's a lot of fun, right? So another job that I had my character, I actually decided I wanted to write a whole story about race cars and race car drivers, stock car racing. And so at the time, I was just we were going with my husband to see races, and we'd spend many weekends just at the races. It was just kind of fun. And so I thought, I want to write about this world, and it was exciting. So it's like, okay, well, I'm writing about a race, that about a race car driver. Obviously, my character has to be a race car driver, and then my heroine actually ended up being an owner of a race car. So the romance between them worked pretty well. And so I got to do the research. And so this is the fun part, I think, that if you are interested in something, you can try things out. If you're writing about a cook, maybe you can go to a culinary school for a while. I actually went and tried to drive a stock car. Well, I did drive one. I went and I paid for like this 3-hour class. They walk you through how to do it, how to not crash and how to handle the car. And then you go out there and you do some laps on the actual speedway. So it was a lot of fun. I got to try something that I was curious about, and I got to write a very authentic character because I had done it and I really understood what he was doing, and the difficulty of sitting there for hours and hours and hours at crazy speeds going in circles, and how physically exhausting that is for a driver, and just a lot of things that I had never thought about, but it really helped me to understand that career. So what kind of things should you consider then when choosing the job for the character? First of all, you have to consider your character's skills. What skills do they have, depending on the character that you've created, right? You've created a character that has an entire past, and you can use all of that to say, okay, well, what would be the best job for this type of character? Is my character wealthy? Did he grow up with a wealthy family? Was he not, right? Did he grow up in a poor neighborhood where maybe he had didn't have some educational opportunities, which would make it hard for him to actually be be a doctor or be something where he would have needed a lot of education. So sometimes your job opportunities for your characters is going to be limited by the skills of the character, which that you're creating, right? So just like in real life, what's going to limit us from taking on a job is going to be, how are we limited? Are we limited by our education? Are we limited by the place where we live? Are we limited by, different things? There's not a lot of women stock car drivers, for example. There might be some now. I have not followed the sport as much as back when I was in my 20s, but but there's not a lot. There's still not a lot. There might be some, but there's not a lot, right? So sometimes we're limited by what's traditionally been male or female type jobs, and that can create a limit on your character and what your character can do. Okay, the second thing that you want to consider when choosing a job for your character is, what is your character's personality? Is your character outgoing? Is your character kind of shy? Is your character greedy, right? So it just depends on the personality of your character and what would be something that your character would naturally choose. So you got a greedy character who really wants to make millions of dollars. Possibly that might not be your character to be a social worker who is going to barely make enough money to survive, and whose goals in life is to help, right? Children or whatever, right? So you want to make sure that your character's personality is fitting the job that they're in. You could have situations where your character is in the wrong job, right? And maybe that's something that changes during the course of your story. So a lot of times we have characters that are not suited for their job for whatever reason. And if that's part of the comedy or part of the irony of your story, then of course, then you put the character in the wrong job, knowing that it's the wrong job for them. But most of the time, what we're going to want to do is we want to make sure we're matching the character's personality and who they are to the job that they're doing. Okay, the third thing is to consider, again, where your character lives. Where are you setting the story? I watched a movie recently. It was called To Leslie, and it was about this woman who had an alcohol issue, but she ends up winning the lottery. And doesn't really win all that much, but to her it was a lot of money. And so what does she do? She kind of blows it all and wastes all her money. And then when the story starts, she is broke. She's drinking, I mean, bad, like so that she's out in the street and can't take care of herself, doesn't have a place to live. So she's, hit rock bottom. So it's a sad story. It was a sad movie, and but she's trying to get out of this. Well, what can she do? What kind of job can she have? Well, when you've placed a character in a setting, she's in a very, very poor town. I don't remember where it is, but there are not a lot of options in that town. There were a lot of the people that were there would just go out and drink all weekend, and it was just a very poor environment. So what can a character like this do? What kind of job can she do that she can get out or improve her life? It's very limited because of the setting. So she ends up actually opening up a little diner that she wants to clean up her act and have just a little business, and this is what she decides to do. So again, it fits, right? Because for that little area, maybe having a diner, that's about what she can do. And that's her education, her and her place of where she lives are going to totally limit the things that she can do. Pausing for a second to let you know about a couple of courses that I've created. If you're a beginning writer and you want some help with your book, I just want to let you know that I do have a basic course on how to write, and I'm going to post it below. And if you're not a beginning writer, but you are more established and you're ready to publish your work, you have your novel written, I also have a publishing course, and I will also post it below. So take a look at it. Maybe they'll be just what you're looking for. All right, let's go back to the video now. Okay, and the fourth thing, I've been mentioning it, is educational level. So what is the educational level of your character? Because that's going to, they're not going to be able to do any job depending on if it requires an advanced degree or it requires some kind of technical skill. Your character has to be able to do it, right? So they can't do anything. What's their educational level? With my current novel, Let Us Begin, I had an immigrant, a 22-year-old immigrant that comes to the United States. What can he do? I had to think of jobs that he could do, right? So recently immigrated, does not have a lot of education or very much at all, just like he had just beginning college. And so what could he do? He becomes a dishwasher. He drives trucks. He paints houses. Why does he do those things? Because those don't require him to have any kind of education. So unless the character decides to learn some skill, get some training, go to school, then he is going to be limited on the type of job. So education is definitely going to limit what your character can do. And the fifth thing is, what does your character believe in, or what are some of the character's values? Because that's going to, again, control the options that this character has as far as work. So does your character really love the freedom of being outdoors and would feel constricted being at an office job inside? Okay, well then you don't want to put your character in that position because that's not going to fit that character's values. You have like firemen, right? What are their values? They love to save people. They love to actually the adventure of running into dangerous situations and being able to again help other people. So if you have a character whose personality is like that, right, then you don't want to, and values, right, you don't want that character doing a job that doesn't fit that personality and doesn't fit that character's values. And the values can extend to everything. So maybe your character loves family, loves children, so they're going to be working near family members. They're going to stay within an area that they're close to family. Maybe your character has religious beliefs that are important to him, so he's going to choose again jobs that don't impact or don't have a negative effect on religious beliefs or ability to worship as they want. So characters' values, belief systems are going to impact the type of work that they choose also. So the cool thing I think about being a writer is that you do get to explore different things. Now, I would never give my character a job, even if it fit and it fit their character, fit their personality, fit the location, if I really didn't like the job, because I don't want to have to do all the research for a position that I don't like or a job that I don't like, and then have to live with it, right? Because you're having to talk about it and write about it in your book. I only had that situation actually one time where my editor didn't like the job that I had given my male character, thought that it didn't really fit him and it didn't fit the story. So she's just suggested some other things. And she said, well, what about a house flipper? It's like, what do you mean? So I had to learn about house flipping, which is buying a house, right? Fixing it up and then reselling it. It wasn't anything I'd ever thought about. It wasn't anything I had any interest in whatsoever. But once I started doing a little research, I thought, you know what, I could actually write about this. It's not a huge interest that I have, but he's going to be a business person, and I don't have to spend a lot of time talking about it. I do have to show him in his job. So I do have to understand it, and so I watched a bunch of like what those home improvement shows, so that I could understand like what people do and how, the problems that they may have. And it wasn't a chore. I didn't hate it. I would have never chosen it on my own, if it hadn't been suggested by an editor. And I thought, well, let me check this out. So, you don't want to be stuck writing about a career or a job that you absolutely hate, or that you have no interest in, or that you don't want to learn about, because again, you're going to spend a lot of time writing about this. So, things to consider, things you like, things that interest you, things you've always wondered about, but then also all the things specific about the character. Does it fit that character's interest, personality, values? Does it fit the location? Does it fit the educational level of the character? All of that, so that you are actually fitting a character well with a job, and that it works within your story too, right? So we want to make sure that it fits. The reason that my animator worked wasn't so much because I liked it, but it fit everything. It fit her personality, it fit who she was, and it also fit into the story. The story takes place in Los Angeles. She is in the middle of all this Hollywood type stuff. It just worked really well for her and her character. I actually can't even imagine have given her a different job, because this gave her the ability to be creative and to be who she was at work. Okay, so I hope this helps. I hope that this is something that you will think about, consider next time that you are creating characters and doing your characterization, because the job that a character does is a huge part of who the character is. So you do want to spend some time thinking about it. All right, I hope that this has helped. If it has, please hit the like button and the subscribe button so that you will be notified next time I have a video, and share it with your friends. Bye.